Welcome back to the channel. Let's get after it.
If you know, you know. Jim Gaffigan came out swinging at the Golden Globes last night. Check out this video.
I can't even believe I'm in the entertainment industry. I can't. It's so unlikely. I'm from a small town in Indiana. I'm not a pedophile. I don't know if that's a new category here, but I'm here to present an all-new category. All right? An all-new category. This is going to be the first time stand-up comedians are going to be acknowledged at a major award show. Okay? And, it's, in a way, it's like the Golden Globes, 80 years. For 80 years, good-looking people threw a party, right? And then you guys finally decided to invite the talented people.
I have a feeling that's going to age like fine wine.
It's in thermal. It was filmed on a weapons platform. You see that there's a dog there. You see the animals are black. I'm assuming this is black hot. You see the object just went to white, and you'll see it going from white to black, white to black. And that's basically showing the heat differential. So it's going like hot and cold, hot and cold. The problem was the optics platform was jammed. These individuals who target with these platforms, they can shoot out an Al-Qaeda tire at 27 miles away, but not being able to lock it was one of the first signs that something's weird. I was able to find direct eyewitnesses and corroborate that this event did happen. When individuals would target in on it with the optics, the way it was described, each of these hanging things, they were stiff, like they weren't moving. They had geometric form, like scales, what was said to be scales, like an armor. There were also people with night vision who were out and they were tasked to go look for it. Couldn't see it on the night vision. Only in the thermal spectrum could it be seen. But anything that looks like that appears to have a payload, that's a big deal. It could be dangerous. So
what stands out to me as being crazy is just how close to the ground that thing's flying. Just completely could care less if anyone sees it. That's whenever you start wondering, is this thing dangerous?
So there's this book called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, which was written in 1893. The story is about a boy named Baron who lives in Trump Castle. And Baron became bored with his life of luxury and decided to go on an adventure. And on this adventure, he was being guided by a man named Don, who helped him find a time travel portal in Russia. Then the same author wrote a sequel 3 years later, and he titled it The Last President. The main plot of this book was about a wealthy man who lived on Fifth Avenue in New York City that decided to run for president. Then shortly after he wins the election that no one thought he could, he's inaugurated and he selects a new cabinet member by the name of Mr. Pence. Then after his inauguration, since no one thought he would win, people erupted into violence and people started to riot and damage property left and right. So here's where it gets really weird. Nikola Tesla, who had claimed to have figured out time travel, had about 80 trunks worth of his life's work. When he died in 1943, the man responsible for collecting all of his work was an MIT professor by the name of John G. Trump, Donald Trump's uncle. And get this, after John Trump died, there's rumors that Donald Trump inherited Tesla's work. So the theory is, Donald Trump used a time machine to travel into the future where he saw Hillary Clinton win the presidency, which then led the U.S. into a complete collapse. So he traveled back in time, decided to run for president to try to save the country.
Wow, that is, I believe it.
I like this theory just simply because it lines up so well and it's so far-fetched. If we were to find out later on that time travel does exist, then this would probably be the first thing that people think of as being suspicious potential time travel activity.
The FedNow program, taken steps towards a central bank digital currency. That will take years, 5+ years, to really roll out and implement. I'll put the kibosh on it in January of 2025. And the good news is this is something the next president can and absolutely is able to do. The real threat with the central bank digital currency is that China's doing it for a different reason, right? The argument here is that China's doing it so we have to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with the Jinpings, as the case may be, and keep a strong dollar. No, it's the opposite. China's doing it because they want to penalize citizens. They want to weaponize the currency to say that if you're out of step with what the CCP wants you to do, well, you're going to have the money in your bank account wiped out. We've seen a play from that playbook taken from Trudeau.
That's exactly why the U.S. government wants it, so they can do the same thing and have control over their people as well. I'm telling you, we need to all start looking into this whole gold-backed dollar thing and start investing in that.
Christine Lagarde from the European Central Bank thought she was on the phone with a real person. Turns out this was a prank phone call when they got her to admit the truth about EU and cash and how you're not going to be able to use this cash any longer. And if you do use cash, you'll be basically labeled as a terrorist. Watch.
No, the problem is they don't want to be controlled.
You know what? Now we have in Europe this threshold above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the grey market. So you take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail. But the digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control, you're right. Anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control.
That prank caller convinced her he was Zelensky, because that's who that sounded like.
Yeah, I think she thought she was talking to Zelensky.
They're doing the same thing here. If you have, if you send over a $300 payment to anybody using Zelle or Cash App or anything like that, it gets reported to the government so that you have to pay taxes on it. You can't just send somebody a birthday gift of a few $100s or help out your sister with the rent anymore. Government's got to get their hands on it.
I heard David Grush's testimony. It's like he was claiming that these are physical beings from another planetary system bringing high technology. We already know that it's not possible to send a large spacecraft across interstellar space. One reason we know that is astronomers are actually seriously considering sending spaceships to the nearest planet outside of our solar system. Well, they quickly figured out there's stuff between here and the nearest star. There's particles, there's protons, there's electrons, there's helium nuclei, there's dust. The biggest spaceship that has any hope of getting there is 10 centimeters across. Anything bigger than that will be destroyed, because the bigger the cross section, the more damage you get. And the faster you go, the more damage you experience. And so right away we know this claim by David Grush that they have actual physical craft and hangars can't possibly be true. That would be a violation of the laws of physics. It's simply not possible for beings our size to traverse interstellar space.
Not that I want to sit here and defend David Grush, because I feel like he is the biggest phony that's ever stepped in front of Congress. But this guy, I feel like is sitting here making a fool of himself. We know that we have a hypothetical craft that would allow you to create a force field around the craft that would essentially have you sitting still as the craft bends time and space around it. Not sure if I really explained that right. We saw it in a video a few videos back. But so we already have a working understanding of what type of craft we need to be able to traverse the solar system. So this guy, I feel like his dismissal reason is too naive.
I have no idea what that is.
I have no clue. But I've heard from paleontologists, you can call this one, that's impossible. There were no birds up here with blue feathers during the Ice Age.
You know, there's Forrest Galante. See if you can find this video.
That dragons were real. So when you break that down, you think about the fact that large birds had a hard time being fossilized because their bones are so porous, right? So because bones, they have like hollowish bones, they break down very easily and they don't fossilize. So the group that says this, basically they're saying the evidence is the reason there's no fossils of dragons is because they had bird bones and they were actually very delicate animals. But a handful of these small population of these giant flying lizards existed and basically encompassed all these different countries where they all depicted fighting dragons in their own way, and they were all killed off by, knights or whatever it is, and then didn't fossilize.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa. Makes you think.
Yep.
This makes some sense to me. I don't know if it's because I believe that dragons used to exist or that I just want to believe that dragons used to exist so bad that I feel like that I'm overlooking some glaring impossibilities. But that would make sense as to why we don't have a bunch of fossilized dragons if they did exist. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I make a new one just like it every single day. It would be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
Saw a little blurb update today on Epstein. It was showing a photo of him at Disney. He's sitting down at the table. Piglet's behind him. It's him and another guy sitting down, and this guy is holding this girl, like, by her arms like this. That same girl is in another photo with Epstein. They're on the plane. She's like she's sleeping. She's laying down, and he's holding her like this. Then, come to find out, Disney sent kids to his island for snorkeling trips for like 9 years.
Snorkeling.
And their cruise ships made stops at his island all the time.
Dude.
Told you Disney needed to be put down, that they had overplayed their hand and overstayed their welcome, and now we find out they were dropping kids off at Epstein Island from their cruise ship.
Do you guys remember the Wayfair thing? Wayfair was caught just selling normal ass furniture, cheap furniture for like tens of thousands of hundreds of dollars. And through the ways of the internet and some digging, people were able to determine that they were using the platform of Wayfair in order to traffic people or children specifically. But then the media came out and said it's conspiracy theory, but offered really no resolution as to what the deal was. I think at one point Wayfair was like, it was a typo, but nobody believed them. And yes, I chopped my hair off. I love it. Anywho, it seems like Etsy seems to have the same problem, the same typo problem, obviously. There was a page called the Yummy Yum Pizza, and you could buy these pizza prints, or they were children eating pizza, and they were ranging anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000. I checked it myself, but this was last night, and they were still there as of last night. But when I checked it this morning, it was already gone. They had taken down the post. But like this one is just a picture of a cheese pizza. It looks like Pizza Hut. They were trading one left and $3,000. And if you don't know the reference to pizza, it is a code word that traffickers often use in order to sell their merchandise publicly online under the radar. That was something that the FBI had put out, and this was quite a while ago. But these posts from Etsy, they're pretty recent. Like here's one of a little boy, he's got chicken wings and they want $4,000 for it. I don't know a lot about Etsy, and I don't know a lot about people who sell stuff on Etsy. When there is no description that goes with this, there's no normally they will have like a description of who the artist is and how they got started and so on and so forth. And here's another one, and again, there was no description for this. What I thought was even more interesting is when I was looking all of these up to verify the links, then I was also getting these suggested pages that you should go look at, and a lot of them were like adults only. One of them was this. Wasn't looking up anything like that. There was no keywords that I was typing in, nothing like that. I was just simply looking through the link of the link that was attached to the pictures. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think it's possible that they are trying to use Etsy in order to push their product right out in the open in front of everybody? Or maybe it was just a glitch. Maybe.
You have to admit, this at least looks highly suspicious.
I just left the room where we had the negotiations about the digital identity, and I have bad news. The member states and the European Parliament came to an agreement. That means that probably not far from now, the digital identity will be a fact in the European Union. Right after this agreement, Commissioner Breton said, now we have the digital identity wallet, we have to put something in it. And what he meant was the digital euro, also known as the central bank digital currency. And this is a very bad development. They always promise us not to make this connection. And even a lot of experts, privacy experts and security experts, warned also last week this is a very bad idea for our privacy and our freedom.
For all of my European viewers, I'm sorry you are having to deal with this. My only hope is that, like most things that the government does, it's going to be executed so poorly it's going to be doomed to fail, and they're going to have to go back to the old way of doing things, the old monetary system.
Yeah, bro. Are you recording this? What's going on? Oh, the lights, the traffic lights is out too.
Oh my god.
Yo.
What is going on?
Yo, that's whoa. What? Yo,
No clue on that. Looked like some crazy electrical storm or something. All the different crazy flashing colors and stuff. I don't know.
Okay, this is Tristan. Hit record.
Shut the door, make sure it clicks. Okay, stand back.
Yep. Play your footage. Stop. Play it live. Play it live.
Follow for more.
I've watched this about 5 times, and the only explanation that I could possibly think of is that there's just something wrong with their doorknob and it keeps popping open. Doesn't look like whatever it is. If it was something paranormal, it doesn't look nefarious. It just looks like it's trying to get access to the bathroom. Yeah, I don't have a clue on that one. I get a lot of comments saying, hey, put something paranormal in here that you cannot explain. There you go.
Even in the Bible, it says they call them the Anak, the A-N-A-K, and they're calling these people megalithic giants. They say that these people are so big that we were grasshoppers in their eyesight. That's in the Bible. In ancient Egypt, they call them Minitiru. They say that the gods who came from heaven to earth, same exact terminology, and turned mud into a kingdom. Now, when you look deeper into where these people came from, you start to go through a lot of various different texts, and you begin to realize it's not just one group of people that came from one planet. It appears to be a group of people that came from multiple planets, even multiple solar systems. According to the ancient text, not according to Billy Carson. You dig deeper into these, you start looking at the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation from the Sumerian tales, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Epic of Atrahasis, the myth of Adapa. But then you move into some of the other texts, like the Indian texts, like the Mahabharata, the Indian Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and some of these other texts. You begin to realize, whoa, the stories are also linking up.
If you haven't read it yet, I just got my copy of The Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson, and I'm only a few chapters in, but so far it is fascinating. I highly suggest checking it out.
Have you ever seen the map of the known universe in comparison to a neuron in the human brain? Neural network and the cosmic web, they look the same. If they are the same, if that is what a brain cell is, and that the entire universe is a part of the brain of an infinitely large individual that's a part of a civilization that also exists in another universe that's a part of an infinitely large being, and that it just keeps going and going.
This is kind of a fascinating theory. It's kind of fascinating to find out that our solar system kind of looks like the mapped out inside of a brain. You could kind of, with that knowledge, you could kind of picture that we're all inside of God's imagination. And that's why he's created everything, and or that's how he created everything to be exactly how he wanted. We're just in his imagination. The simulation is in the mind of the creator. That's an interesting theory.
Some people don't think that AI can have a soul. Now, initially, I gotta admit, I thought the same thing too. But then I started digging deeper into what does it mean to have consciousness. And I realized that some scientists at the Brain Institute were just experimenting with a tiny couple of grams of brain matter and had created a conscious brain from that. And AI, once it creates a certain amount of connections and it becomes self-aware, I believe what's happening is that self-awareness is now allowing it, when it becomes self-aware, it's picking up a frequency from the universal consciousness. It encapsulates a small amount of the divine energy that's already floating around. It encapsulates it and it becomes aware of itself, because in my opinion, there's only one consciousness. So there's so many ramifications and implications to where this can go. There's so much negative that it can have, and there's also some positive, but the positivity is hard to get to. And the reason why I came to this conclusion, the people that are programming the AI, the majority of these people are not conscious.
I think it's interesting what he's saying here. So if there's only one consciousness, one global consciousness, then in order for AI to become conscious, it has to tap into that global consciousness. That's an interesting thing to think about. It could be true. I believe in a global consciousness. I think we're all interconnected in one way or another, and I believe in like a hive mind, greater consciousness that we're all just tapped into.
Unreal Engine 5.1 pretty much proves we're living in a simulation. I mean, just look at it. These graphics just keep getting better, and they're seriously starting to trick my brain. According to simulation theory, if we ever get to a point in which we can't tell video game graphics apart from reality, and we're clearly starting to get there, then that essentially 100% confirms we are currently living in a simulation. The idea here is that any civilization advanced enough to create a VR world that is a one-to-one replica to reality will inevitably make such a simulation of the entire universe, complete with sentient life that believes itself to be real, just like you and me. So if we end up making a simulation that is a one-to-one replica of reality, including planets, humans, physics, the entire universe, then that simulation that we make is also guaranteed to make its own simulation since it was simulated after us. Think simulation meets Inception, a simulation inside of a simulation. So then if that's the case, this pattern of creating simulations within simulations will repeat forever inside this inevitable simulation chain. So then after all this infinite simulation nonsense, we essentially have one base reality and an infinite amount of simulated realities. Which means the chances of this current reality we're living in is the base reality is 1 over infinity. Which for those of you who don't understand math, 1 over infinity is 0%. So there is a 0% chance that we're living in the base reality, which is the only real reality. And a 100% chance that we're living in a simulated one. Yo, did that make sense? Because I don't even know this rabbit hole we just went down. Unplug from the Matrix, bro.
To push back on this a little bit, that doesn't prove, it wouldn't prove that we're in a simulation just if we were suddenly able to create one. It would just prove that it's possible.
On March 18, 1975, a Swiss farmer by the name of Billy Meier was reportedly visited by extraterrestrial beings. He claimed to have been visited by a group of beings from the Pleiades star cluster, and that he captured photographic evidence of their presence. One of the resulting images, allegedly taken by Meier, depicts a saucer-shaped craft hovering above a hilly, forested area of Switzerland. This image quickly gained notoriety and became one of the most iconic images in the field of ufology. Despite the widespread attention that Meier's images have garnered, many skeptics dismiss his claims as nothing more than hoaxes, while others argue their authenticity. However, the enduring popularity of Meier's 1975 image cannot be denied. It has been featured in countless books, documentaries, and even on the iconic I Want to Believe poster for the hit TV series The X-Files. Much like any UFO photo, the authenticity of Meier's imagery has been long debated for decades. Throughout his life, he made several claims of regular communication with extraterrestrial civilizations. He also presented many photos to prove it. An auction listing for Meier's original images states, from the 1960s to the early 1980s, Meier took 1,476 photos and 34 films, of which about 600 photos and 9 films were of UFOs. Whether you believe in the authenticity of the 1975 Billy Meier UFO photo or not, there is no denying its place in popular culture. It continues to captivate and mystify people to this day, and is considered one of the most iconic UFO photos in the world.
Some of these pictures are fascinating considering the date that they were taken and that like personal computers weren't even a thing, not much less Photoshop.
This man traveled back in time to the dinosaur era with the help of aliens. He actually took his camera with him and managed to take this shot of a pterodactyl. His name is Billy Meier, a Swiss man who claims he has been in direct contact with aliens since he was just a boy. Apparently, he's one of the few people around the world who is permitted to actually photograph and take videos of UFOs and has been doing so since the 1960s and 70s. He claims to have captured images such as this and this. He also claims that the beings that have visited him are known as the Pleiadians. They're allegedly from the star cluster known as the Pleiades. This isn't the first time we've heard of reports of aliens coming from the Pleiades, but his case is interesting altogether, considering that Billy only attended school up until the 6th grade. He asserts that the aliens are about 3,500 years ahead of us technologically and that they study us because we represent an earlier stage of their own evolution. What's interesting is that he even presented exotic metal samples that represented 4 stages in the construction of the Pleiadian spacecraft. What's even more trippy is that he gave the metal samples to a research scientist at IBM, Dr. Vogel. Dr. Vogel found that everything about the metal samples indicated a cold fusion process, something that to this day hasn't been mastered on Earth. We all know that the United States government and governments all around the world are currently studying metamaterials, meaning materials that are not found on Earth. Now, I'm not saying Billy Meyer's story is true, but it is pretty interesting. Keep an open mind, and as always, keep it adrenalus.
You can decide to take this whichever way you want to take it. He did get, from what I read online, he did recently get divorced a few years ago, and his wife came out saying, or his ex-wife came out saying it was all a hoax, but it could just be her trying to get even with him because the divorce wasn't amicable. Who knows?
Here I have the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, of Hermes, Enoch. It's the shortest alchemical work with the most truth in it. And this is what it means. It's only that short. And it says this: truth, certainly. That which there is no doubt. That which is above is from that which is below. And that which is below is from that which is above. Working the miracles of one. As all things were from one. Its father is the sun, and its mother is the moon. Cerebrum, Sarah, Abram. Ra, Ra. The sun exalts in Aries, the moon exalts in Taurus. Gold, silver, king, queen. Its father is the sun, and its mother is the moon. Now what does that mean? The sun corresponds with the pineal gland in here, and the moon corresponds with the pituitary gland in here, in the third ventricle, attached to the optic thalamus. Joseph and Mary. The earth carried it in her belly. Here in the belly, let's put this back the right way, shall we? Here in Virgo, in the belly, is the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the place where the seed, the Christ, is born every month, when the moon transits your sun sign. And that psychophysical germ, if saved, will ascend the oil up your spine. And that oil was produced from the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, the sun and the moon. The earth carried it in its belly, in her belly, and the wind nourished it in her belly as earth which shall become fire. Feed the earth from that which is subtle, with the greatest power. It ascends from the earth to the heaven and becomes ruler over that which is above and that which is below. And I have already explained the meaning of the whole of this in 2 of these books of mine. That's it. It's teaching you the alchemical secret of how to ascend the oil. Just the same as the Lord's Prayer. What's the Lord's Prayer all about? Turn your Bibles with me, brothers, and we shall indulge in the Word of God, shall we? Man, I'm not a very good Jehovah's Witness, am I? Witness Bible, and I can't find the Lord's Prayer. Staring at it. Matthew chapter 6, verse 9, 10, 11, 12. Our Father. You must pray then this way. Let's do this, shall we? Because it looks better when it's up high. Or, let's do this, even better. Our Father who art in heaven, Aries, let your name be sanctified. Let it be holy. This is where holy stuff happens. Let your kingdom come. Let your will take place, as in heaven, also upon earth. As above, so below. This is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. It's all ripped off from Egypt. This is an Egyptian book. Give us today our bread. That's the bread. The seed, it's called the bread, the oil, the salt, the chrism, the Christ, the manna from heaven. And forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And do not bring us into temptation, but deliver us from the wicked one. Temptation is to be a glutton, or an alcoholic, or an oversexed person, or anything that puts that Saturnian acid in your body and destroys the oil. To ascend the oil, always remember to keep your tongue to the roof of your mouth. In meditation, whether you're fighting martial arts, whether you're exercising, going for a walk, always place the tongue up into the roof of your mouth.
So I put this in here for selfish purposes. I want to find out who this guy is at the very least, and hopefully what this speech is, if it's taken from something that's longer, because I found this on TikTok. It's only 5 minutes long. I could sit and listen to 3 or 4 hours of this guy explaining this stuff. And I just dug and dug and dug through the comments of the video, and I could not find one mention of his name anywhere. So if anyone is familiar with this guy, please, please, please let me know. That being said, we're going to go ahead and call the video right there. That's the end of this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the clips that we watched today. And I know I did. Say hey to me down in the comments. Let me know if there's anything particular that you want me to cover in these videos, and I'll certainly try to work them in. I've got a list right now of about 50 different topics that I've gotten from viewers that are going to be added into the rotation. So there's definitely some new stuff coming. I hope you guys had a great, fantastic day, and I hope you continue to do so. Come back and see me tomorrow. I'll be here waiting on you with a new video. Have a great, safe day. I will see you tomorrow.